Welcome back to another YouTube tutorial. Today we will be knitting the Mouji sweater in a toddler size. We're going to be knitting the 2-year-old size today. This sweater is worked with a top-down construction. So we begin with the back panel, we create shoulders, and then we'll be joining in the round and working down the body. The gauge of this sweater is 19 stitches by 28 rounds. That's over 4 inches in stockinette stitch. The needles I've used to achieve that gauge are US 8 5mm needle, and you'll need a 24-inch cord for that larger needle size. And then for the ribbing, I have used a US 4 3.5mm needle, and you'll need a 16-inch circular needle as well as a 24-inch circular needle in that needle size. I have used Drops Air to create my sample of this sweater, and it has taken me 3 balls of Drops Air. So for this 2-year-old size, you'll need approximately 150 grams of worsted weight yarn. You can choose any worsted weight yarn you'd like. We will need a few notions as well. You'll need a tapestry needle, 2 stitch holders or scrap yarn, and 1 stitch marker. It's also helpful to have a ruler or measuring tape to measure as we are knitting through this pattern. This sweater is also available in sizes 1 year all the way through 4 years. So if you would like to knit a different size, you can purchase this pattern on both my Ravelry and Etsy pages, which are linked down below. Be sure to also check out my Instagram page to keep up to date with future designs. And with that, let's get started. We're going to get started with the long tail cast on. So I have a long tail of yarn here, and we are going to start by casting on 62 stitches. So I'm going to make a slip knot over my index finger on my left hand, placing the yarn over once, twice, one more time. I'm now going to grab the middle strand of yarn, pull it over the strand closest to the tip of my finger, once more, and pull it off of your finger. So there's your slip knot there. I'm going to grab my 5mm needles and place the slip knot onto my needle. So for the long tail cast on, I have formed a triangle here over my index finger and my thumb, and I'm going to go under the strand of yarn at the base of my thumb, and then grab the yarn that's running over my index finger and pull through the loop. So there's 1 stitch, right? So again, I have my triangle. I'm going under, grabbing that yarn, and through. I'll show you one more time. Under, grab, and through. So there's 4 stitches on the needle. We need a total of 62 stitches. I have 62 stitches cast on, and now I'm turning my work to start with the wrong side, and we are going to purl across the wrong side. So grabbing my working tail of yarn, this end is not attached to anything, I'm going to go ahead and purl into the first stitch and just continue purling all the way across. I've purled across, and now we are turning to work on the right side. We are going to start with knitting 41 stitches. I've knit 41 stitches, and now we're going to start some short rows, and this is going to shape the shoulders at the back. This is actually the back neckline here that we've cast on, and we're going to slope the shoulders now. Okay, so to do those short rows, we are going to turn our work after knitting those 41 stitches. We're going to make a double stitch now. So you're going to take the first stitch on the left-hand needle and slip it over to the right-hand needle. We're now going to pull our working yarn up and over. Okay, so we've made a double stitch there. That was formed out of 1 stitch. We're now going to purl 19 stitches. After purling 19 stitches, I'm going to turn my work and make another double stitch. To make a double stitch on the right-hand side, we're going to first need to bring our yarn in front. Now we will do the same as on the wrong side, where we slip that first stitch over to the right-hand needle, pull our working yarn up and over. We don't need to bring it back to the front because we're not purling. We'll keep it in the back to knit. Okay, so there's our double stitch. Now we are going to be knitting to 4 stitches after the double stitch. So I can see the double stitch on the right side right here. So we will knit that stitch like a normal stitch and then knit 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll show you that now. So go ahead and knit to the double stitch. At the double stitch, you're going to go in through both legs of that stitch and knit it like normal. Now we're going to knit 1, 2, 3, 4, and turn our work. Okay, next on the wrong side here, we are going to slip that first stitch, make a double stitch by pulling up and over. Now we're going to be purling all the way to the double stitch on this side here, purling it as if it's one stitch, and then purling 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches past. Here's that double stitch on the wrong side, so I am going in through 2 legs again, purling it, and then purling 1, 2, 3, 4. Turning our work once again. Okay, on the right side here, bringing that yarn in front, slipping the stitch over, creating a double stitch, and you're going to do the same thing now. So working to the double stitch, which is right here, knitting it as if it's one stitch, knitting 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches past. Turning our work, slipping the first stitch, pulling up and over. Same thing on this side, purling to the double stitch, purling it as if it's one stitch, and then purling 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches past that stitch. Turn our work, bring the yarn in front, create a double stitch, and same thing on the right side. Knit the double stitch as if it's one, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches past. Turning our work, slip the first stitch, pull up and over, and then same thing on the wrong side. Turning our work, slipping the first stitch up and over, and we're going to repeat those 2 rows 2 more times each. So you're going to do right side, wrong side, right side, wrong side. You're going to end up with just 1 stitch left on each needle, okay, and then we'll meet back up there. So 2 more times each. Okay, I finished my final wrong side row. You'll see I have 1 stitch left on this side. I had 1 stitch left on the right side before I turned as well. So we are turning back to the right side, making a final double stitch, pulling the yarn in front, and then up and over. All right, so you're gonna go ahead and just knit all the way to the end now. Okay, still knitting that double stitch, that final one here, as 1 stitch when you come to it. Turning here, we are no longer making double stitches. You're going to just purl to the end here and purl that final double stitch as if it's 1 stitch. Now we are going to just be knitting back and forth. So knitting on the right side, purling on the wrong side until your work measures 6.5 inches from this mid edge here. Okay, so not where it's sloping on the sides. You'll see that we have our shoulder slopes here. You're measuring from the mid neck here. So working until this measures 6.5 inches, and then we will meet back up there. My work is now measuring 6.5 inches from the center back point, and we are ready to put our stitches on hold. So I'm going to take my tapestry needle and some scrap yarn, and I'm going to place all of the stitches onto the scrap yarn. I've turned it around now, right side up, and we are going to start working on the front left shoulder over here. So we will be picking up stitches along this shoulder edge, and we will be starting at the point where the first short row was made. So right here, you'll see there's a section where our knitting is flat, and then there are 2 shoulders that slope down. So you're going to be looking for where that slope starts, and that's where we're going to be picking up stitches. Another way to do this is to count from this edge the stitches. If you can't quite see where that slope starts, you're going to count 21 stitches from this point right here, and that's where you'll start. So 21 stitches brings me right here. Okay, we can break our yarn that was attached to the back, and we are going to rejoin it up here. Still using our 5mm needles, I'm going to go in through 2 legs of a stitch, grab the yarn, and pull through. So there's 1, making sure I have a bit of a tail here because we're going to weave that in at the end. Going in through the next stitch, 2, and we will be picking up 21 stitches all the way to this edge here. Okay, I've picked up my 21 stitches. I'm going to turn my work and we are going to start on the wrong side. We are going to just purl across all of these stitches. Turning back to the right side, we are now going to knit across the stitches. Back to the wrong side, we are going to repeat those 2 rows 4 more times. Okay, so we're going to purl across, knit across, that would be 1 more time, and then 2, 3, and 4 times. Okay, I've completed those 2 rows 4 more times. We're back on the wrong side and we are just going to purl across once again. On the right side, we are now going to begin increasing to shape this neckline here. So we are going to start with knit 3. Make 1 right. To make 1 right, we're going to grab this bar in between these 2 stitches. Grabbing this bar here and placing it on my left hand needle. I'm going to go in through this bar as if it's a stitch here and knit into it. So there's our make 1 right, and we are going to knit to the end. Turning to the wrong side, purling across all of the stitches. Back to the right side, and we are going to do that increase row again. So we are going to knit 3. Make 1 right, grabbing the bar, placing it on my left hand needle, and knitting into it, and then knitting to the end of the row. Back on the wrong side, purling across once again. Back on the right side, for our next increase row, we'll be increasing 2 stitches instead of just 1 stitch. So we're going to knit 3, make 1 right, knit 1, make 1 right again, and now knit to the end. Wrong side, purl across. Back to the right side for the final increase row on this shoulder. We'll be increasing 2 stitches again. So knit 3, make 1 right, knit 1, make 1 right, knit to the end. Great, you should have 27 stitches on your needle now. You can go ahead and break your yarn. We are now going to place these stitches on hold. I'm just going to slide them to the other side here, grab my tapestry needle and my scrap yarn, and slip all 27 stitches onto the scrap yarn. We will now be picking up stitches for the front right shoulder. We are going to be starting at the edge this time and pick up 21 stitches in this direction. So go ahead and grab your working yarn, insert your needle into 2 legs of the first stitch here, grab the yarn and pull through. So there's 1. I'm looking for the next V here. There's 2, 3, and we are picking up 21 stitches. I've picked up 21 stitches. I'm turning my work, and I am going to start by purling across all of these stitches. Right side, knitting across all stitches. Wrong side, we're going to repeat those 2 rows 4 more times. So once again, we are purling across, then knitting across, and that's 1. Then you're going to do 2, 3, and 4. Back on the wrong side, go ahead and purl across once more. After having finished those 2 rows 4 more times, we're going to purl across once more. On the right side, we will now start increasing to shape the neckline on the opposite side. So we are going to knit until the final 3 stitches. At the final 3 stitches, I'm now going to make 1 left. So I'm going to pick up that same bar we used for the make 1 right, but I'm going to put it on backwards. So I'm not putting it on this way as we did for the make 1 right. I'm going over the back of the needle now, and then I'm going to knit into the back of that strand of yarn. So there's our make one left, and then knit 3. Wrong side, purl across. Right side, we're once again going to knit to the final 3 stitches. Make 1 left. And knit 3. Wrong side, purl across. Right side, we're now going to increase 2 stitches, so we're going to knit to the final 4 stitches this time. 4 stitches remain. I'm going to make 1 left. Knit 1. Make 1 left. Knit 3. Turn my work and purl across. Turn work, and this is the final increase row, so knit to the final 4 stitches. Make 1 left. Knit 1. Make 1 left. And knit 3. You should have 27 stitches on this shoulder as well. And instead of turning our work, we are now going to cast on some stitches for the neck here before we join the 2 shoulders together. So we're going to cast on 8 stitches using the backwards loop method. I'm going to place the working yarn over my thumb, and I'm going to slip this strand of yarn onto the needle. So there's 1 stitch, 2, 3, and we're casting on 8. We're now going to place these shoulder stitches that are on hold back onto the left hand needle. So I have these current stitches over on the right hand needle, and I'm going to place these stitches onto the left hand needle, slipping them one by one. You can go ahead and break the yarn and then remove it from that needle. We're next going to knit across these shoulder stitches that we've just placed back on the needle. The front panel is now connected, and we are just going to keep working back and forth in stockinette stitch. So knitting across the right side and purling across the wrong side until this front piece measures the same as the back piece, so 6.5 inches from this outer edge here. We're not measuring from the center like we did for the back. We will measure from this outer edge corner. So when the work is measuring 6.5 inches from here, that's when we will meet back up to join in the round. The front panel is now measuring 6.5 inches from this outer edge here, and we are ready to join our work in the round. I've just finished working a right side row, and we are going to start by casting on 2 stitches that will be at the underarm. So again, I'm going to loop the yarn over my thumb for the backwards loop method, grab the bottom strand, place it on my needle, and one more time. So there's our 2 stitches. I'm now going to be placing the back stitches that are on hold onto the left hand needle. So we will start over at this edge and go ahead and slip all of these stitches back onto the needle. Go ahead and remove your scrap yarn from the back stitches, and then place your needles together so that we can start knitting in the round here. So we have those 2 stitches that we cast on using the backwards loop method. Now I'm going to knit across all of these back stitches. After having knit across the back, we're going to cast on 2 more stitches using the backwards loop method. We're now going to place a marker. This is our beginning of round marker. And then finally, we will join up with the front panel over here by knitting into this first stitch and then just knitting 1 round back to the beginning of round. All right, I've knit my 1 round. At this point, we are just going to be knitting in straight stockinette stitch, so knitting all stitches around and around until the work measures 7 inches from the underarm here. You should currently have 128 stitches on your needle, so go ahead and count those and then knit your body in stockinette stitch, and we will meet back up for the color work. My sweater is now measuring 7 inches from the underarm here, and we are ready to get started with the color work. Now, if you are a tight colorwork knitter, you might want to go up a needle size for this section. So you can just slip all of your stitches onto a needle size larger than the one you're currently using. If you're not sure if you're a tight colorwork knitter or not, just make sure you're keeping a nice even tension on this next section because we don't want it to pull in too much. So I'm going to put the colorwork chart up on the screen here. If you haven't read a colorwork chart before, we read them from bottom right to the left. So the opposite of how you would read a book from the top left corner moving right, you read a knitting chart from the bottom right corner moving left. I will show you the first couple rows so you understand which direction we're moving. I'm going to be using this Drops brushed alpaca silk. I would recommend, if it's your first time working color work, that you pick maybe the same yarn that you've been knitting the rest of your body in, just in a different color. I'm going to just experiment with this today and see how it turns out. It should turn into a fun, fluffy color work section. I'm going to be holding these strands double to achieve a similar gauge to the worsted weight yarn I've been working with. Okay, so if you're looking at the chart, you'll see that on square 1 of row 1, we have a blue square, which means that is going to be in your contrast color. So I am going to work 1 stitch with my new color here. Okay, you'll see that the next stitches are all in your color 1. So that was the main color you were using for the body. I'm going to pick up color 1 once again. We have 6 stitches to knit in our color 1. You'll see that the next box has our contrast color again. This is where you want to be careful that you're not pulling too tightly because you'll see there's a float in the back here. So we don't want to be pulling and then causing our work to cinch in. You're also able to catch your floats if you want to. I'll show you that on the next color work section so that you can see both ways of doing this, but we're just going to go in and knit that stitch once again. Okay, so we have completed the first 8 stitches of row 1. We are going to keep working row 1 all the way around until we're back at the beginning of round marker. So you'll see we go back to box 1 now of row 1, which means we are knitting another stitch in our contrast color. Okay, I'm going to drop that yarn, grab my main color, once again working 6 stitches in my main color. I will show you how to catch your float this time. So I'm going to work 3 stitches and then I'm going to grab the contrast color yarn and just loop it around back there. So it's going to be caught by my main color. And then I'm going to knit the final 3 stitches. So I've knit 3 stitches in my main color and my float has been caught back here because we twisted it over. So now I pick that contrast color back up and we have 2 stitches to knit. Okay, so we're still working row 1 all the way around. Essentially you just knit 2 in your contrast color, 6 in your main color, 2 in your contrast color, and so on, all the way to the beginning of round. Okay, we are now on the second row, so we are going to start with 2 contrast color stitches. Next we have 4 main color stitches. Next we have 4 contrast color stitches. As you'll see, both box 7 and 8 are contrast color stitches, and then 1 and 2. So we connect those together. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, back to our main color for 4 stitches. Okay, so we're just going to continue on like that. So 4 in main color, 4 in contrast color, all the way around, and that is row 2. Okay, row 3, I'll get you started here and then I'll let you finish the chart on your own. So row 3, it looks like we start with a stitch of our main color. So that is box 1 of row 3. Then we move into 2 stitches in our contrast color. Next we have 2 stitches in our main color. Once again, 2 stitches in our contrast color. And it is going to continue like that all the way around. So 2 stitches in your contrast color, followed by 2 in your main, 2 in your contrast color, until you are back at the beginning of round, and that is row 3. Go ahead and continue all the way through rows 4 through 8, and we will meet back up at the end of the color work section. I have finished all 8 color work rows, and I'm going to go ahead and break my contrast colored yarn. You're now going to go ahead and just knit 1 round in your main color. We are ready to start the ribbing. You can go ahead and grab your 3.5mm needles with the 24-inch cord And you can either slip your stitches onto the new needle or knit right on. And we are going to start with a knit 2, purl 2, knit 2, purl 2. That is all the way around. You're going to continue in knit 2, purl 2 ribbing until you get back to the beginning of round marker, and then you're going to continue that ribbing for 1 inch before we bind off. After completing an inch of ribbing, we are ready to bind off the body. Because the sweater is so oversized, I'm not going to worry about a designated stretchy bind off. I'm just going to make sure I'm binding off my stitches loosely with a regular bind off. So I'm going to knit into the first stitch, knit into the next stitch. Without pulling on these stitches, I'm just going to pass the first stitch over, trying to keep everything nice and loose here. Then into the next stitch, I'm going to purl again, not pulling on anything, and bringing that stitch over. So I'm just purling the purl stitches, knitting the knit stitches, one by one, all the way around. Make sure you give your work a little bit of a pull just to check that you like the tension. You can do a stretchy bind off if you'd like to, but I find that this regular bind off is just fine with this many stitches on the needle. I have finished binding off the body and we are ready to pick up for the sleeve. I've already knit this first sleeve here, so I'll go ahead and show you how I've done that. We are going to start at the underarm here with our 5mm needles with the long cord. Go ahead and grab your yarn. We are going to be picking up 50 stitches around the armhole. We're going to first go in through one of these stitches that were cast on at the underarm. I'm just going to go through 2 legs of a stitch and pull the yarn through. So there's 1. Going to just grab another stitch in through here, 2, and then you'll see now we're working vertically here. So I'm going to go in through the stitch this way, 3. I've picked up my 50 stitches all the way around the armhole, and now we are ready to divide the stitches for magic loop. So we want 25 stitches on each needle. So I'm going to start here counting 25, and then I'm going to pull the cord through and bring the stitches back up onto both needles. All right, I have my working yarn over my index finger. I'm going to pull the back stitches off onto the cord and set up to knit now. So we are going to go ahead and knit all the way around. I'll show you how to switch sides when we get to the end of the first needle. So after knitting across all of the stitches on the first needle, I'm turning my work. So these stitches I just knit are back here. I'm going to pull them off onto the cord. And now I'm setting up to work on needle 2, just knitting all the way across needle 2. Turning my work, pulling the stitches back up onto the needle, and then dropping the stitches from needle 2 off onto the cord. Same thing, we're just going to knit around again, and we are knitting 8 rounds total here. So we just knit 1, you just need to knit 8 more rounds. I'll show you one more time how to work magic loop for this sleeve. So we're gonna go ahead and knit across needle 1. I've knit across needle 1, I'm turning my work, pulling needle 2 stitches up onto the needle, dropping the stitches we just worked onto the cord, and knitting across needle 2. You're going to go ahead and knit across needle 1 and needle 2 6 more times. So 6 more rounds total, and then we'll meet back up for our first decrease round. We are now ready for our first decrease round. So I'm going to knit into the first stitch on needle 1, and then I'm going to knit the next 2 stitches together. So I'm going in through both stitches, grabbing the yarn and pulling it through. I'm going to knit to the end of needle 1, turn my work, knit until the final 3 stitches on needle 2. At the final 3 stitches, I'm going to slip the first stitch, slip the second stitch, and knit those 2 together, and then knit 1. So we're going to continue that process. We're going to now be decreasing on every 8th round. So you'll knit 7 rounds just across needle 1, across needle 2, all the way for 7 rounds, and then you're going to do that decrease round again. And then you're going to knit 7 rounds, decrease again, and you're going to do that a total of 5 times. You've already done it 1 time here with me, so that means you're going to do it 4 more times. Okay, so go ahead, continue knitting your sleeve, and then we will meet back up for the color work. We are now ready for the color work section, and this is going to be the same color work as we did for the body. So I'm going to pop that chart back up on the screen here. So you're going to work all of that chart, and then after we will meet back up. After completing the color work section, you can go ahead and break your contrast color yarn. Place that on the inside and we'll weave that end in later. Before we start the ribbing, we have one decrease round to do. We are going to actually be decreasing at the beginning and the end of needle 1, the beginning and the end of needle 2. So we are going to knit 1, knit 2 together, knit to the last 3 stitches of needle 1, slip, slip, knit those 2 stitches together, knit 1, turn your work and place your needle 2 stitches up, drop your needle 1 stitches. You are going to knit 1, knit 2 together, knit to the final 3 stitches of needle 2. So at the final 3 stitches here, we are going to slip, slip, knit. You'll see that my final contrast color stitch has loosened up, so I'm just going in and pulling on that tail end of yarn. So we have decreased 4 stitches there. You should have a total of 36 stitches on your needles, or 18 stitches per needle. And we are ready to start the ribbing. Go ahead and grab your 3.5mm needles. I'm just going to slip all of my stitches onto the needles before starting the ribbing. I find it easier for magic loop, but you can go ahead and start knitting directly onto the needles if you'd like to. All right, I have all of my stitches on my 3.5mm needles, and we are going to do a knit 2, purl 2 ribbing all the way around for 1 inch. So for the bind off, once again, I'm just knitting into the first stitch, and this is a regular bind off, so I'm going to be knitting into the second stitch, again, just loosely, not pulling tight on these stitches. The next stitch is a purl stitch, so I will purl that, pass the stitch over, purl, pass it over all the way around. We are now ready to get started with the collar. So we're going to be grabbing our 16-inch 3.5mm needles now for the smaller circumference of the collar. I'm going to start at the back corner here. So I'll start here and grab 2 legs of a stitch, pull my yarn through. I am now going to place a stitch marker and work in knit 2, purl 2 ribbing for 2 inches from where we've started here. And then I am going to show you how to do a stretchy bind off technique for this neckline. We are ready for the bind off. I am going to do a stretchy bind off technique just to keep as much stretch in this neckline as possible. So we are going to start by knitting the first stitch, creating a yarn over just by passing the yarn over top of the needle, knitting the next stitch, and then I'm going to take the first 2 stitches that we worked and pass them over top of that stitch we just knit. Next is a purl stitch, so I'm going to yarn over, purl into that stitch, pass these 2 stitches over. Once again, we have a purl stitch. I'm going to yarn over, purl, yarn over, knit, and we're just going to do that all the way around. All right, before you break your yarn, you're going to want to leave a long tail of yarn because we're going to be seaming the neckline to the inside seam here. I'm going to start by joining this end that we just finished up at with the place that we started by looping the yarn through. All right. Next, I'm going to look for the column of purl bumps that lead directly underneath where we just finished here. So we want to be lining up our collar, making sure we're not pulling or twisting in any direction. We always want it directly underneath. I'm going to just grab a bump here. I'm just going to keep going like that. So I'm going to grab a bump from the top, bump from the bottom. Make sure we're not pulling too tight. We want to keep an even tension so that our neckline does not become tight. All right, and you can keep going like that all the way around. For the last step here, we're going to be weaving in all of our ends. So both on the inside and the outside, just check for any places you have these ends of yarn. For the cuffs here, make sure you're connecting the end that you finished with to the end that you started with, like that. And then to weave in our ends, we're just going to go in through 3 bumps here, back down the other way, and then one more time. And then you can trim the yarn right here and continue doing that for all of your ends, and then you can go ahead and wet block your project. To finish up this project, you're going to need to wet block it. So giving it a bath, letting it sit for a little while, and then you can press out the water using a towel and lay it out flat to dry. You can use T-pins if you have access to those. If not, just laying it flat on a nice dry surface will do the trick. Thank you so much for following along with this tutorial today. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure again to follow me on Instagram if you'd like to stay up to date with upcoming patterns. And if you need any pattern support, please email me at kaboraknits@gmail.com. Thanks again, everybody. Until the next one, happy knitting.